Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm joined by Ross Tweddell from from Cultaholic.com. How you doing today, Ross?
I'm very well, pal. How are you?
I'm alright, mate. So how's your day been so far?
Not been too bad. Just had a full day at work, doing a couple of videos for the channel. So been quite busy, but not too bad. What about yours?
My my day's been my day's been alright, mate. I've just been working on a couple of more a couple of a couple of more interviews for the channel. So yeah, just working.
It's the best way to be, isn't it? Keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, especially in times like this where it's not really a lot to do. Is there?
No, they kind of go out for a beer, really, can we, without having to go home at 10 p.m. We all know that virus comes out to play at 10 o'clock, don't we?
Yeah. So do you know where you are in Newcastle? Yeah. What's it? How are you guys? Like, what sort of tea are you in? Because here in Birmingham, we're, we're, start, we're starting to get really bad again.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've got the unis up here that have had all sorts of stuff going on, and but I think I think as we're sat here now, we're still in tier 2. But to be honest with you, God knows what's going on. I just stay indoors mostly, away from other people.
Yeah, not the best. Not the best way to be, mate. To be honest, if it wasn't for this pandemic, I probably would not have started this series. So any, so anything positive can come from something negative, can't it?
Aye, at least something positive can come from a virus like this, and having lots of spare time indoors to do something productive.
Yeah. So, so obviously, people know you from Cultaholic and formerly WhatCulture. So how did you start? So how did you start getting into the getting into the YouTube platform, so to speak?
Well, I graduated from the University of Sunderland back in 2014 with a degree in journalism, and then I just did well. I worked for free, tried to get a paid gig in journalism. Didn't quite happen for a few months, and then WhatCulture came along. They were looking for a football writer, so I applied for that position. And then when I was having a Skype interview with the boss, he said, "You got any sort of secondary subjects here that we cover that you're interested in?" And I said, "Oh, I used to watch wrestling when I was younger. I guess I could do some of that if you need me to." And then he asked me one question to sort of, I don't know if it was to test me knowledge or whatever. He said, "What was the best match at WrestleMania 3?" Now, what would you say to that question?
No, no, it's quite difficult because if you're going on the star rating, is obviously Steamboat Savage. But if you're going on the Al Slow theory, it was Hogan Andre.
It's funny you mention Al Snow because about a week or so before this interview I watched that interview where he said, no, Steamboat versus Savage was not the best match because it didn't draw the most money. That was Hogan versus Andre. So that's the answer I gave him. And that's the answer that sort of got me in the door at WhatCulture doing wrestling writing, which I sort of did for over a year and 4 months or something like that. I just wrote for the website, and then the YouTube channel started, and then the YouTube channel started gathering pace, and then I was like, can I get involved? And they were like, yeah, you can start dressing up as a king for us.
My apologies. To answer your question, I would say I would agree with Al Snow. Al Snow. I do think Hogan and Andre were the best match. Because you can have the best match, you can have the best wrestling match in the world, but if nobody there to see it, did it really matter? Did it really matter? If you know what
No,
I mean?
I know what you mean. I'd still say Savage and Steamboat's the best one. I know Hogan and Andre is the most iconic one potentially in wrestling history, but if I'm just going to say what was the better match from bell to bell, I'd say the other one.
Arguably, you could say it might, well, not even arguably, it did make Hogan a mega star. Because
Yeah.
obviously he was still big at the time. But at the moment, I've been body slamming Andre really made him a mega star.
Yeah, even more than he already was. He was already quite big at the time, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
can you remember your first video? Like, what was the preparation for your first video?
uh, so they were like, "Oh, we want to." No, well, yeah, they said they want to dress me up as a king, and I was like, "Yeah, fine, we'll go for it." But the costume didn't arrive or something, so I had a party hat from the Christmas party on my desk for some reason. So I think it was February when I debuted on the channel. So I still had my Christmas hat on my desk from the Christmas before. Printed off a WTF logo, which we've been using on the website for a while, and then just stuck that on the front of it. And then it was Sam, who works here at Cultaholic now. He was sort of stood behind the camera going like, "Oh, could you do this and that and like emote a bit more and speak a bit more clearly?" And I was just like a rabbit in headlights, not knowing what I was doing. And if you go back and watch that first video, it was painful to watch and painful to make.
we, we, we've all got to start somewhere. I mean,
You're right
my,
there.
my my first interview was terrible. I barely spoke clearly at all, which, as you can imagine, is quite difficult for me anyway. But imagine 10 times worse because I was so nervous. I barely spoke any sense at all, at all.
There's not to be ashamed of being nervous. I get nervous every time I have to speak to somebody, even today.
I, ironically, when I'm making videos by myself, yeah, I tend to be a lot more calm, even though it is going onto the internet. But when I'm doing an interview like we are doing now, I tend to start stammering and stuttering because I know the person's giving up their time. So I just try and be as I don't want to say as quick as I can, but I just don't want to waste their time if you know what I mean.
There's no need to worry about that. It's a pleasure to speak to you today.
So obviously you've taken a long deserved rest from the channel. So how you feeling? How are you feeling as of right now?
Yeah, the break was very beneficial. Sort of looked into neuro linguistic programming, it's called, which is sort of helped the stuff that goes on inside my head. Yeah, it was just it's been something I've been living with for sort of 6 or 7 years or something like that at this stage. So it got to the point where I need to do something about it, and having a little break from YouTube and pro wrestling as a whole was something that I was very thankful to be allowed to do by Adam here. So yeah, it's been very beneficial, and I've the break sort of lit the fire under my arse once again. So I'm ready to get back to work.
To be honest, mate, you didn't miss very much.
I did. I think the first Raw after I took off, it was the debut of Retribution.
Yeah, at the time, you probably thought, I've taken a break, and then all of a sudden, this happened. When you look at what's happened to them as of recently, in hindsight, you, in, in retrospect, Retribution has been a disaster.
I feel sorry for them all because they've been given a really rubbish gimmick to begin with. Let's just say it is rubbish. Like the masks and everything, it doesn't look very good in my opinion. And then they've been, I think it's as we're sat here today, they've lost 4 straight matches on television, which doesn't help them. And then the transfer to Raw doesn't make sense because why would Raw want to sign this group that have been destroying the company? It's been an absolute shit show from the start.
You can you can you can say whatever you want. Because I'm not really monetizing my content right now, so you can say whatever you want.
Fine,
As long,
it was a shit show then, Anthony. It's been a massive shit show.
yeah, exactly. Like, and you know, in the first debut on SmackDown, I was really curious, as a lot of people were, where they want to, where they're gonna go with the storyline, and then they ended up do what they normally do and not going anywhere with it, really.
Yeah, it's a weird one because they've sort of they just forgot about the hacker, the SmackDown hacker, for 6 months, didn't they? We all were wondering who was this guy who can get access to the CCTV cameras and whatnot, and then that was just dropped for whatever reason and forgotten about. And then they've done this retribution thing and clearly had no sort of plan for retribution. So thought, hey, we'll just put the two and two together, sort of make them join. So at least they've closed one storyline and then sort of opened up with another one, I guess, if you're going to look for the positive in it all. But yeah, it's not been very good, has it?
No, not really, man. I don't know I don't know when one of you guys that said it, but somebody came up with a theory that they've done it to try to have a laugh with Trump, with all the what's going on in the world. They've just done it to have a laugh with Trump, if you know what I mean.
Well, if anyone's going to do that to Trump, it's his best friend in the entire world, Vince McMahon, isn't it? So
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit because obviously you say you liked football, and you've told me you you have a season you have a season ticket at, at, at Newcastle United. So what was your first game you ever went to at Newcastle?
it was in April 2000. My mum took us to go and watch Newcastle versus Coventry City, and Newcastle won the game 2-0. Thanks to Stephen Glass scored one of them, but I can't remember who scored the other one.
You did a lot. You did a lot. You did a lot in 2000. I seem to remember that was your first WCW live event, wasn't it?
It was. You've seen the ticket.
The- I just remember you talking about it on my other videos.
Yeah, it's I think that was in the November. My mum took us to it was called the Telewest Arena here in Newcastle to watch WCW. And I was speaking about it, and a lot of people were saying that no doubt none of the big names were there, but someone online has listed the entire card. And I think they're all there apart from Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Sting, and Lex Luger, and Steiner. They're all there. But, I would have just turned 8 at the time, so I wouldn't really have known what was going on. But I've still got my foam guitar. Jeff Jarrett says Slapnuts on it, orange thing. I've still got that in my wardrobe at home.
Um, I'm free for say Jeff never drew a dime. He clearly drew a dime with you because you bought all of his gimmick gimmick guitars.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah.
took a couple of tenors up my mum's purse, no doubt.
Do you know when these big promotion, like obviously WWE, come to the UK? Do you think we get mistreated a little bit by the company? Because we never get anything really big happening, do we? And I can understand it from their perspective, because obviously they have to pre-record. But I just wish sometime we'll get we'll get some big storyline development or big title change.
Yeah, I mean, we had, I think AJ Styles won the title in Glasgow, didn't he, off Jinder Mahal? I think that's the best one we've had for God knows how long. But yeah, from a business side of things and the logistics of flying everybody over and then flying all the production over and doing all that stuff in somewhere they're not familiar with, I can fully understand why they don't do it very often. But from a purely fan point perspective, SummerSlam 92 was a long time ago. I'm not counting, Insurrection and Rebellion and crappy pay-per-views like that were UK only. So I don't even think America saw them. They were just house shows, but with a TV camera there. So we would do. It's been long enough since 1992. We need a proper big show to sink our teeth into here. We just need some rich family to pay them billions to come over and fill Wembley Stadium or something like that, like the Saudis do.
Or, or we need. You know the UK, do you know the UK brand? Do you know if it was marketed a bit better? Yeah, they could be a small, like you know what I mean. That they could be that brand that could go all around the UK and really make it exciting. But at the moment, obviously, with the pandemic, they can't really do that. But even when they could travel, there wasn't really, there wasn't really that exciting, was it? NXT UK.
I mean, their takeovers are very, very good, the NXT UK. But I as I sit here watching, like, all WWE and then all AEW as well, I'm just never compelled to sit down on whatever night of the week it is to watch the weekly NXT UK. But as I say, that it's weird. It's a weird one because all their takeovers so far, they've been very, very good, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to take over to Birmingham, because that's where I'm from, I would definitely go to it. Because obviously, when it comes to in-ring performance, they have some of the best talent in the world, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Walter and Tyler Bate and
Yeah,
Dragonoff and people like that. Yeah, you can't go wrong with them, can you?
I would think, you can't. I was thinking the other day, like the whole WWE roster, when you think about it from like a in ring in ring perspective, they've got one of the best rosters they've had in years.
Who's this WWE? He's the main roster.
Well, the whole company as a whole.
I mean, they sign every single wrestler going, so it's hard not to have a good one, isn't it? They've got about 300 people signed under contract at the minute, haven't
I thought he went down significantly. What? Yeah, you're probably right.
they? They've got a hell of a lot of talent signed. Obviously, yeah. People are leaving now. Obviously, we had the big release, whatever month that was earlier this year. It's easy to forget which month it is these days, isn't it? Yeah, but yeah, they've got a hell of a lot of people signing that performance center in NXT and then the main roster as well, haven't they?
Yeah, WWE remind me of the spoiled rich kid that just want everything so nobody else can have it. That's what they remind me of.
That's certainly the case with a fair few of them. When you don't see them on TV for a very long time and then wonder why they're still there, I think that's just the case. So that promotions can't have them and thrive off their name.
I understand it from a business perspective, but to be honest, if I was them, I would do exactly the same thing. I would do exactly the same thing, but as a fan, you want to see some of the best wrestling wrestlers in the world get their opportunities to really show what they can do.
Exactly, yeah. It is a shame when you see so many talented people just not on. I know that the TV shows, you got 3 hours on a Monday and then 2 hours on a Friday. So not everyone can be on every week, but you'd think they'd rotate the cast a bit more than they do just to allow these talented people to get some time in front of the viewing audience.
Like we don't need to see Seth Rollins 32 days a year. Like why not give Seth time off, like in the summer, and try and build some new people so when he comes back you have some fresh programs.
I fully agree. I fully agree. We rely on the same names all too often, especially in WWE these days, and we rely on the older names way too often as well. I think it's they don't seem to. It's all this thing about WWE being the brand, isn't it? Like you don't go to wrestling in their mind. I'm saying you don't go to wrestling shows to see your favorite wrestler. You go to watch WWE, don't you? So it doesn't really matter who's there. I think that's what they're thinking is, but it is. Yeah, we need to build more big stars. Who knows? If you put investment in someone, might get another Rock or Stone Cold. You never know. It's what been missing, hasn't it?
Like the only person who can really make an argument for it is obviously Roman, but everybody else just feel like just feels a part of the machine, a part of the machine. To be
Yeah,
honest,
it is. Yeah, they get the big debut, and you think, "Wow, this is going to be fantastic." This, and then it's always like 3 weeks in, the wheels come off, and then they're just another member of the roster straight away.
yeah, I've always thought this, because how Austin and Rock and even Cena have gone on to do movies and things like that. Do you think it's a case of because the WWE obviously don't want people leaving them and doing better? Is that their way to, is that their way counteract counteracted, do you think?
Potentially, yeah, but it seems to be a bit of a double-edged sword because I was listening to Stone Cold's podcast, and it was early noughties. He appeared on some sort of American TV series, and Vince was getting cuts from his paycheck from that sort of his contract. He was saying on his podcast. So I guess if Vince McMahon wanted it to, it could work out well for him. But I think it does play a big part that it was in with it the span of a year, really, wasn't it? Austin left in 2003, and then sort of into 2004, Rock was gone as well. So I mean that's a four big shoes to fill, isn't it?
The one person that did benefit from that is Triple H. He had a whole year. He had a whole year and a half of being the top guy by himself.
Yeah, I mean, once he got with Stephanie, I think the writing was on the wall there.
I do think that's a bit unfair. I do think that's a bit unfair sometimes. Because obviously he's talented at what he did and what he does now. So I think that's a bit unfair sometimes where people just think because he's married to Stephanie, he got all this influence. I
Yeah,
do think
sorry, go on.
I do think it helps him to a certain extent, but obviously I do think he's also got a lot of talent when it comes to writing. When it comes to writing TV,
Yeah, I meant it more from like him potentially leaving to being more moves and that. I think as soon as he got with Stephanie, I thought like that they would just keep him in there. But yeah, outside of sort of 2003 when he was winning everything, wasn't he? He was beating everybody. I think outside of Triple H is wrestler, and you see what he's done with NXT. He just is. He knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
yeah, he always comes across like a pretty nice guy within streaming interviews, and he always comes across as very genuine.
Yeah, he does. If he's watching this, if he wants to come on Straight to Hell with me on the Cultaholic Wrestling YouTube channel, I'll see if I can make some room.
Get in line.
I'll fight you for him.
But speaking of Straight to Hell, I love that series. Obviously, you can't do it as much as you would probably like to because it requires getting people on. But I do love that series. I just think it's really interesting.
Thank you very much. It's a completely unique and fresh concept for a show. There was never a show that used to be on BBC One that was exactly the same, but with a different name. There was never one of them, no. But actually, with the like we're doing this now with Zoom, it hasn't really changed anything. It's just getting access to guests because we're a Cultaholic here. We're not in a position to interview WWE talent. I've tried my best to get in with AEW. It's not really happening there, so it's trying to find people who are willing to do it, who are outside those two promotions, and that obviously people are willing to watch.
Because sometimes it must be like bang your head against the wall. Because I imagine you could get local guys, but nobody can really care. We all respect them.
But yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? There's an audience for everybody. But obviously, we need to, especially this year of all years. I mean, us here at Cultaholic, we've taken the hit just like everybody else has with the pandemic and whatnot. So, it's just trying to strike that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, like I couldn't speak for myself, but obviously I can completely relate to what you're saying about how hard it is to get people on here because it's like sometimes it's like banging your head against the wall.
It is. I just wish I was verified on Twitter, not because of not just because of the vanity of having a blue tick, but just because it's in the DMs, isn't it? That's where most of the contact's made. It's like, but if you're in that, because when you're verified, I think it's right. You have your normal inbox, then you have your verified inbox, where all the verified people's messages are. If my messages were in that other one, I think it'd be a lot easier to get guests.
So do I, mate. You you got to work towards something. I guess so. Yeah.
I don't think it's ever. I've been on doing this now for nearly 5 years, so I don't think it's ever going to happen for me.
It's very weird that Adam, your boss, got his verification more, and you guys don't really have one. How did Adam get his one?
He told me once upon a time it was something to do with him having a work email assigned to his profile, but I've got my work email now assigned to mine, and it hasn't happened for me. So I don't know. Maybe he paid somebody or did something scandalous to somebody in a position of power. Who knows what might have happened? Anything could have happened there.
To, to be honest, yeah, Adam's very sneaky, sneaky character in a good way. So you never know what he's done.
That's the thing, isn't it? You never know, do you? You don't know what he gets up to behind closed doors. I don't know what I'm saying. He might see this and kick off.
Because I know from that the certain ways of doing it. I'm not going to reveal on here because I don't think it's technically legal. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
What are you saying? Sorry, what's not technically legal?
See, I know for a fact there's a way to verify yourself. There's a way to verify yourself. But I'm not going to go into the detail.
You'll have to let me know in the DMs when we're done this,
I
please.
will. I will. I will. I will one day.
I'll wait for that day with bated breath.
But obviously, you've had people like Will. You've had people like Will Ospreay on and people like that. But has there ever been a person that you've had on and you thought, why he was probably not the best person to get on?
Well, I mean, after what's happened in the wrestling industry over the summer, there's a fair few. You don't know what's going on with these people who come in. I mean, I've had there's a couple of names who have been sort of revealed to have done terrible things behind the scenes over the summer as part of the speaking out movement, and I guess that would be your answer there. Because as terms of guests, I think I've been quite lucky that they've all been good guests and they've all been interesting. But it's just these characters that do these things behind closed doors. You know, I guess that's the regrets there. But you don't know, do you? You don't know this is going on when you meet them. So
No, you don't.
no, and you know, with the people that were involved, we've taken those we've taken those episodes down, so they'll never be seen again because we're not using our platform to promote people like that. So we've had to take down a few episodes after what's transpired this summer.
Yeah, in all seriousness, mate, fair play. Because there'll be a lot of people that would still keep it up for the monetary gain. So fair play.
Thank you.
I know you don't need validation from me, but I really do respect that because there'll be a lot of people that will keep it up saying, well, we're making money from it, so who really cares? So I really respect you guys for taking that stance.
No, I mean, like myself, Adam, Jack, and Sam started this company, like, you know, with the intention of doing things right. And I like to think that's, you know, so far we're coming up to 4 years in, 3 years in, coming up to 3 years in. I think we've done everything pretty good so far, and hopefully that continues.
Now, obviously, you worked with a lot of people. Obviously, Adam Batiti and Jack, the job and people like that. So, who's your favourite person to do a video with, just from a viewer chemistry standpoint?
I mean, it's different horses for different courses, isn't it? Like me and Adam have a certain type of chemistry. I think it's a bit more, you know, like childish. And then me and Tom have a chemistry that's different to that. And then me and Jack have a chemistry that's slightly different to that as well. And then me and Sam have a chemistry that's different to that. So I don't think there's any preference really. I think we all quite mesh together quite well on screen. So we're quite lucky in that respect, I think.
That's what, to be honest, that was the answer I expected. But I personally do have your play. I personally prefer it when you make when you make videos with Adam purely for the comedy aspect.
Yeah, I do miss doing Adams with doing Adams, doing videos with Adam. I don't do any Adams, no, not my personal type. No, I did read because obviously I had a void to fill on the reactions and stuff right at the start of the company. So I was nervous about those going live, but no, thankfully, like he's an easy guy to work with on camera, and he's very like giving and yeah, and he takes it as well. So
oh, I remember, I remember your first punishment video, yeah. When when you were doing like the HK thing,
mhm.
that's the Survivor Series 2017. And
Yep.
my favourite bit of that reaction and the punishment was when so so I'm just thinking that so my favourite bit was you were when you when you're rocking backwards backwards and forward in them chairs, yeah. and then, and then, and then Adam needed to do
He
Isn't
fell
it?
off. He fell off his, didn't he?
Yeah, that was just like, like moments like that. Just, just tickle, just tickle me.
Yeah, that was. It's always funny to see someone fall off a chair, especially Adam Pacitti with his gangly legs and whatnot.
Uh, but I also really, I also, I also really like the fact that you guys in particular don't feel like you're staging anything. It feels very organic. It feels very organic and very natural.
I appreciate that. I mean, we don't. When you see a punishment, it's not being faked or anything. There's no CGI involved or anything like that. It's always real. You know, I got buried alive legitimately at the beach, and Adam jumped out of a plane. There's no real way to fake that. So I will. We try to keep things as real as possible.
You're you're right. You're right. You're braver than I would be because I wouldn't let people bury me alive. Not even for a YouTube video. So do you know when they said we're gonna do we're gonna bury you we are gonna bury you alive. In the back of your mind, were you were you thinking, do I really want to do this?
Well, I have that every single time I need to face a punishment. It's that a sort of couple of minutes where you're like, is this really what my life's come to now that I have to do this for the entertainment of others? But as the whole WrestleMania punishment thing that year was face your fear, and I've got a legitimate, you know, I'm claustrophobic, so that's the worst thing that could have happened there. And I think I was only under there for sort of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was. I can't remember. What was it, 5 or 10 minutes? You know?
I think I swear it was more like 15, but I could be wrong. I don't. To be honest with you, mate, I don't remember.
It could have been like literally 7 hours. That's what it felt like. I was like, I read this thing that was like, you got to sing your way through it, and that provides some sort of like mental distraction from what's going on around you. So I did that, and it didn't work out whatsoever. And what was worse was I've got claustrophobia anyway, so being in a wicker casket is bad enough. But when they put the sand on top of it, the roof of the lid of the casket sagged in the middle, so it was pressed down right on my chest. I had all this sand just on my chest like that, and I was like, well, that was just making it even worse.
Louis, how, how, did, how did you get away with filming that here? Like, on the active beach when there's people, when there's people, when there's people walking past. I don't know how you've never been arrested or anything like that.
But that one in particular, probably because we filmed it at a place called Blythe in the northeast, and I think that's just standard behaviour for a place like Blythe. But yeah, we would well, I think it was Sam and Adam, wasn't it? They were digging the grave while I was sat there. I mean, we went early in the morning, so it was just we got there just after sunrise, I think. and they were just digging the grave, and it was a dog walking beach, so there was just a few dog walkers passing by. There's two lads just digging a grave, putting a casket in there, and then I was just standing there looking at them, going like, "Morning, how are you? This is normal behaviour." But I'm surprised I didn't get pulled over because I had a little Peugeot 208 at the time, and I just had this massive casket. I had to fold down the front seat so I could fit this massive casket in my little Peugeot 208 to drive that to the beach. So I was surprised I didn't get pulled over.
we we do a lot of weird things for YouTube. Luckily, I haven't done any weird content yet, but as you can, I can imagine the things I will end up doing at some point. Yeah, you have to do that. You have to do that. Yeah.
Ah, your time will come. There's no doubt about that. Nobody gets away from YouTube without doing something they don't want to do. So your time's coming.
Obviously, you're the editor in chief of Cultaholic. So what did that actually pertain to your job? Like, what did daily work right?
That the editor in chief title was just down to the website. So we have a website as well, cultaholic.com. Aside from the YouTube channel, and on there, I was like the editor in chief on there. So I would, be kind of in charge of, be in charge of what went out and what we covered and stuff we didn't cover and stuff like that. So on top of doing videos, that's been my other job here is running the website.
So, so, so for example, say like if there's a story like Bailey, is it your decision to make sure? Basically, what I'm trying to say, do you decide whether it's appropriate for the site or whether it's appropriate to post or anything like that? Is that basically what you do or what you did?
Yeah, up until very recently, yeah, that's basically it. And like sort of putting together a writing team. Like we've got Aiden who works here, who's great at his job, and I just largely leave him to get on. Like he does all the news coverage here. He's the news hound, I think he calls himself. So he just cracks on and covers the news. And if I see something I don't think we should be covering or something like that, I just say to him, "Would you mind taking that down, or would you mind tweaking this or something like that?" But my job sort of changed when I've come back from my break because I think it doesn't need to be said that editor in chief of a website is a job all by itself, like aside from YouTube. So
Yeah.
we're in the process of trying to look for a new editor in chief so I can just concentrate on the YouTube side of things. So if you know anybody,
So I would imagine that will cut your work down significantly.
it's still long because videos take their time to do. But say I don't know on a raw WTF day, I normally get here like 8 a.m. something like that, and then watching Raw and putting together the script for the video sometimes takes up to 4 hours, something like that. And then shooting the video takes about half an hour, and then I send that away to the editors, and then I make all the pictures and stuff like that, which takes another half an hour, and then while they're doing the editing, which takes a few hours on top of that. So yeah, my day is normally split in half, where I do video stuff in the morning and website stuff after that. But now it's all video stuff. So
But I would imagine it's very, I would imagine it was very hard to get into video mode, so to speak, where you're quite outgoing and quite loud, and then go from that to editor in chief, where you're more traditional, if you
yeah,
know
well,
what I
it's
mean.
it's nice you just get to have a good sit down, after jumping about for a bit. I'm a big lad. It's after jumping about for half an hour, it takes it out of you, so you get a nice sit down at the end and just do some writing or some editing or something like that. So it's a nice breather.
Have you have you always been a why? I don't want to say why not, but have you always been like very comedic, like in your private life or not really?
Would you say I'm comedic in my professional life?
Will you make me laugh?
Oh, at least there's one. I don't know. I'm pretty shy in me in my day to day life, and I'm one of those people where I need to get to know somebody for a while before I come out with shell, and then then I start cracking jokes and having a laugh and whatnot. But when you first meet me, I'm very very shy until I get to know you a bit better.
Well, I assume that's in person. 'Cause, what I would say, mate, you don't feel shy when you're doing things like this. I assume that it's in person.
That's because I'm blind drunk.
I mean, obviously, yeah, you've done WTF for many years now. Has there ever been an episode where you thought, I might gone a bit too far there? Just,
Plenty of times I've said things that have gone too far. More so when I had the gimmick back in the day, because I could sort of, well, I felt in my stupid deranged mind I could hide behind that and say things that I wouldn't say by myself. Like now that I'm just on screen as my real name and no gimmick or anything, I need to be a bit more. Well, I should have been responsible to begin with, to be honest with you, but I'm definitely more responsible with what I say now. But to be honest with you, I can't think of a particular example. But I used to try and push the boat out a bit too far, maybe once too often.
be honest with you, I used to think you obviously you were playing a character, but even when you first started doing it as yourself, yeah, I used to think I used to think sometimes you were being a bit of a basically I thought you were being a bit of a dick. Sometimes I understand that's the point of the show to be really critical, but I do think sometimes that isn't really worth pointing that out, or is it really worth saying that, or that
And
just
the
me.
answer is yes. Yes, it is always worth it. Yes, definitely.
That's just me. That's just me. That's why I could never do a show like that. I could never do a video series like that because I don't think I could be as critical as you are.
Yeah, well, sometimes they make it easy, but sometimes you do. It's just for entertainment, isn't it? Like I like to think when people watch me do what I do, I'm doing it with a wink and a nudge. You know, I'm not being unless it's Shane McMahon, I'm not being deadly serious. I'm doing it for to have a laugh. You know, at expense. It's something we all like in professional wrestling. But yeah, I like to think people know I'm doing it with a wink and a nudge most of the time.
To be honest, I agree. I agree. I agree with everything you say. Anything you say like Shane, man, I agree with.
Well, that's good because when I was growing up, shit. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 25, 24, nearly 25.
So you'll know what I'm talking about here. Shane McMahon, when we were growing up, was sort of like he came in, had the odd match here and there, but he would do something that made you go wow and appreciate that he does have skills in the ring, but he would never be in the world title picture. He would do the sort of third or fourth match on the card and do something amazing, and that would be it. Would move on to the big title pictures at the end. But then when he came back in 2016 and it started with the Hell in a Cell match with the Undertaker, all of a sudden even though he was, going on 20 years older, he was all of a sudden the main event guy beating Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. And that never registered with me. So that I just didn't like it whatsoever.
I hate it when they try to do the MMA moves like that like the triangle choke and things like that. I do find that really annoying because half of the time it looks like complete dog it looks like complete dog shit half of the time. As somebody that likes MMA, I know that that's not how you do it.
I mean, I know nothing about MMA, so I'm completely. I'll take your word for it. But it was that like him all of a sudden being like a main event level wrestler after back in the day he wasn't that. He was just he did like a stuntman almost, I guess, to reduce it to something really simplistic. But it was also just like remember that era of SmackDown with him and Brian as the general managers, and it would be like, this is the land of opportunity, and we'll put the focus on the superstars rather than the McMahons, which is what they've been doing for the few years before with the authority and whatnot. And then what actually transpired was just all the focus on being Shane McMahon. There was a feud between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens, wasn't there? I remember for the
Yeah.
US title, and Shane was in there every single. And we're just sat there watching, thinking these two, Kevin Owens and AJ Styles, they could have amazing matches in a WWE ring. Get out the way, Shane, will you? Stop sticking your nose in. But it sort of just spiraled from there, didn't it?
One time Jane, I expected there to be like a double down, and then Jane would would, would come over would pin one of them and and call himself the US champion.
I'm
That,
surprised it didn't happen, to be honest with you.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought they were going for.
I'm surprised it didn't happen. I'm surprised he did. Well, he held the tag team titles, didn't he, with Miz for a little bit there. Poor George. But I am surprised he didn't win a big singles title by himself, because obviously he's the best wrestler in the world.
To be honest with you, I think half of them things were done as a troll.
I hope so. It certainly trolled me. I didn't. Sometimes I did enjoy watching it, seeing because when you see someone take themselves too seriously, it's funny to watch, isn't it? When someone takes themselves too seriously, you're just laughing at them. It's always funny. But yeah, I thought it went a bit too far.
Because you know, because it was like a double-edged sword. And not only did it happen in Saudi Arabia, where he became veteran, but the way he celebrated and the fact he beat Dolph Ziggler, one of the best wrestlers on the roster at the time, and the way he celebrated was just class.
Yeah, that was funny. Those Saudi Arabia shows they're a joke anyway, aren't they? With what they do on them, we saw I've forgotten was it Hiroki Sumi, I think his name was, when they wanted Yokozuna, but unfortunately Yokozuna, of course, has passed away, so they got to stand in just for that one night only. There's always something that, obviously, like, there's all the issues of how they're being held and whatnot, and all the controversy surrounding that. But when you're watching the shows happen, there's always something absolutely crazy that happens. There's always a talking point, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, and to be honest with you, we should have expected in the way they've handled COVID and the way they've handled the whole Twitch thing. We should have expected it a lot sooner than when we realised. Because we should have realised WWE was just a money making machine. As long as it makes money, they don't get at the moral compass.
Yeah, I mean, in certain cases, I understand where they were coming from with the whole Twitch thing, because obviously, if they're using the name that WWE owns to sort of put money in their own pocket, I guess I can see where it comes from a purely business standpoint. But what they were doing with people like Paige, who doesn't even wrestle anymore, like taking her channel away from her, and I mean, it's not taking anything away from the weekly product, is it? When they're doing these Twitch, I don't. I guess I can see where they were coming from with using their gimmick names on the Twitch streams. That isn't something that WWE produces, but outside of that, it's a complete nonsense what they're doing at the minute.
I could even say, okay, if they're talking like WWE stuff, then I could understand it. But if they're just playing video games like a lot of them were doing, then what the harm? And if you just say to them, don't use your WWE license name, then just say to them, use your real name. But I'm really confused about how they can own somebody's real name. I swear that was a story at one point. How they own certain people's real names. I could be wrong.
I've got no idea about that, but yeah, I fully agree with you. If they're just sat there, some of them do little talk shows and whatnot, and play video games and watch stuff, and it's further in the wrestling community. It's further in the experience of watching wrestling that you get to connect with these superstars in their spare time doing the things they like to do, and it is baffling that WWE would want to sort of just take that away. It's just, if you're looking at it from a fan's perspective, I don't get it whatsoever.
Like, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but when I watch them here, I don't watch them to hear them talk about wrestling. I watch them so I can watch them play video games.
Yep, that's it, isn't it? They're not. I don't know what they even could do on Twitch to sort of take. I guess if they started streaming wrestling pay-per-views, I guess that's maybe one thing they could sort of take stuff away from WWE with that they probably shouldn't do. But nobody at the minute is doing anything to harm what's happening on Raw or SmackDown or NXT at the minute. They're just furthering their own brands and creating more of a community. And it's all, I think it was Dakota Kai on her streams was raising money for charity. I mean, it's all they're all doing it for the right reasons. I mean, and then WWE are going to stop them doing this. But Paige is the one, because she's, as she was saying today, is where Satya, she's broken her neck twice wrestling for WWE and she can't wrestle anymore. and yet they're taking this away from her as well. I think it's just wrong, isn't it?
And it's not like they even using that on TV either. Like if they were using that on TV, I could understand it a little bit if if they had a role for her. But they don't even have a role for her. So what she's supposed to do to see her, just sit in her ass? Do they give her a call to do some media stuff every once in a while?
That's it. Well, she was on backstage once every so often, wasn't she? And that shows not on the TV anymore. So especially with that. I mean, it's baffling for all of the cases, but especially with the case of Paige, it's extra baffling.
Do you know what I think really cool? Do you know AJ style? I don't know whether I don't know whether he saw his Twitch, but there were some times where he speak about certain things that were happening backstage. Like I believe he spoke about the Paul Heyman thing on his Twitch
Yeah.
stream. I believe that's how that came to light. So I think it was something to do with that. How WWE come to know about it.
Well, just say, AJ, just would you mind not speaking about backstage things on your Twitch stream, please? Continue what you're doing. It's very good, but just don't speak about backstage things. Why couldn't that have been the resolution to it?
You know, that's what would have happened to anybody sensible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you say to that. It's confusing.
At the end of the day, all they're gonna do is force more. It's gonna force more wrestlers to want to leave, and then they're gonna have an unhappy working environment, and then there's gonna be more negative stories coming out.
It's this whole debate about the independent contractor status, isn't it? It's officially they're not employed by WWE, are they? They're all independent contractors. It's like saying, imagine if you got a plumber in to fix your toilet, and then he wanted to do some work next door on a sink, and then you going, "No, you can't do work on that sink next door because you did work on my toilet yesterday." It's a massive issue that I'm probably not in the best position to speak about, to be honest with you, because I'm thick.
It's like saying to somebody like True Geordie, you know, True Geordie, don't you?
Yeah.
He really helped out the channel quite a lot. But it's like saying to him, he's built his own brand, and then it's like somebody else coming in and saying, "Oh, we want to take a percentage of your earnings, even though we had nothing to do with it."
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. It's yeah. I've got no idea. I've got no idea what they're doing.
And it'll probably be the YouTube channel next, and then the Twitter pages will probably be controlled by WWE employee WWE officials, and then it will all be storyline. The only person that will be happy about that is people like Jim Cornette.
I mean, I guess you're right, but I don't think that makes it right, though. The Jim Cornette will be happy about it because a lot of his opinions, I think, are just outdated these days. And I just think he might say things because people are expecting him to say it now. I think it's got to that sort of stage with him, which is a shame because he's obviously one of the greatest talkers, managers in the history of wrestling. But the whole social media thing's just a massive shame because we're very lucky in our generation that we do have this access to wrestlers that was never there before. And whoever has a social media platform, you can just drop them a DM or a tweet to tell them how you feel for better or for worse. But yeah, it's a shame that they're wasting it.
The best example I can come up with, you know, people like Liv Morgan, do you know based off a WWE character, there's nothing interesting about her. We follow her on social media. She's a really interesting person.
Yeah, she's got a farm, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Which you would never expect, would you?
See things like that can really make people stand out to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's another thing with characters as well, isn't it? They don't like to have too many layered characters these days for some reason as well, which is a completely separate issue altogether.
I think it's because they know their target audience are like, obviously, obviously they're targeting towards children, and children don't really care about the layers of the character, do they? They just want to see bright colours, and they just want simple stories. So
And
good.
you could say they don't allow people to. Everything's so scripted these days that people like The Rock and Stone Cold can't be produced. Because when I was young, it was all Rock and Stone Cold. That's who, an Undertaker, Captain Kane, Mankind, people like that, all that captivating characters. Who, yes, Vince McMahon gave them all gimmicks or whatever, but they were then allowed to go out and do their own thing when they're out there on Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. And that's just not allowed to happen these days for some reason. They've all got to have scripts and then follow the scripts, and sometimes the scripts don't really allow them to show what they can really do and sort of fit a certain narrative that maybe isn't the best narrative. It's just a shame the way wrestling's gone a bit in that respect, I guess.
I mean, what's wrong with bullet points? There's nothing wrong with bullet points. If you decide to them, you need to hit this, and this. Then why can't they go out there and experiment with the like? Well, not now, but when there were live crowds, why can't they go? Why can't they go out there and experiment? Obviously, they can't swear or nothing like that because of the sponsors. But then just say to them, don't curse.
Yep, I think that should be it. You got your bullet points. There's your key things you need to say for the story. Just go out there and do whatever you need to do.
And just don't curse because of the sponsors.
Yeah, well, tell that to Jey Uso. I think it was Hell in a Cell, wasn't it? He was saying all kinds of shit and this, that, and the other, wasn't he? I can swear here, can't I?
Yeah.
He was saying shit every few seconds, wasn't he?
But that was on pay per view, wasn't it, on the network? So I guess they
Yeah.
could say everybody on the network, you have more
Freedom.
license to say what you want.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. WWE, when you look at it, it's like a dictatorship, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Vince McMahon's an enigma. I can't wait for that Netflix documentary to come out about him to see what, hopefully, what he's like. Although it's a bit of a shame, I guess, that WWE have a hand in the production next. It's not going to be the true story. It's going to want to make him look very, very good indeed. But yeah, he's an enigma, isn't he? Yeah, there's a lot of issues you could unravel with the way Vince McMahon does business. And I'm just not the right guy to speak about them because I'm thick as pig's shit.
The one good thing that might come of this, the wrestlers might get actual lawyers to look over their contracts and then actually be smart, about when it comes to signing them.
I hope they would do that anyway, to be honest with you, Anthony. It's I think Paige might be on the brink of starting something as we're sat here now. She was on about looking more into unionising and creating a union for wrestlers like actors have and stuff like that. So maybe that's the way forward to get every single person who works for them to sign up to a union in some way or form. I'm not too sure how it works, but maybe that's when things like this will start to change. Who knows?
You want me to be honest with you? I can only see it happening when somebody like one of the say for example, if somebody like Roman Reigns said that, then I might take it more seriously. But unfortunately, somebody like Paige, I can just see WWE saying, "Okay, we'll let you go."
I mean, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take like needing to have everybody get on board with it, and then if everyone's on board, there's not much the company can do because they can't lose their entire roster, can they? So
it's like back in the 60s or the 70s. I can't remember when it was. Jesse Ventura tried to create a union, didn't he? And then
then
they left.
Hogan ratted him out.
Yeah, so you'll probably be like that again. One of the big stars will probably just go against the rest of the roster. And then it probably all fall apart. And it probably all fall apart again.
I mean, I don't know because like the difference between them and that then and now, is that they all have guaranteed contracts, don't they? But back in the day, most of them didn't have guaranteed contracts. They only really came to play when Nash and Hall went to WCW, didn't they? And then everyone started getting them. So maybe that's the difference between that generation and this generation that might see it happen. Who knows? Who knows what might happen?
And to be honest, yeah, I think this current generation are a lot smart, in terms of actual academic knowledge. Like as as we know, people like Xavier Woods have got PhDs, so he's obviously not a dumb chicken, is he?
No, not at all. I bet there was some clever lads back in the day, but I just think the business has changed. As businesses evolve, don't they, and industries evolve, and the way things were done back in whatever day it was when Jesse Ventura tried to unionize, it's very different to the way things are done now.
Ironically, the thing when they went public, so they can go into the stock market, and it could really hurt them. It could really hurt them if they do unionize. Because now that they're a public traded company, they can't really do anything underhanded, can they? Really, in terms of the law.
I'll take your word for that one. I've got no idea how all these things work. As I say, I'm from the northeast of England, which isn't the most, brightest area of the world. I've got no idea what the hell goes on with that sort of thing. So I'll take your word for it, Anthony. But to be honest with you, I don't know what to say. Would you mind if I quickly nick to the toilet for a second?
And we are back.
Very professionally done.
So as you've said before, about letting some more, about letting some improv, about letting them improv a bit more. AEW. I think AEW are doing the right amount of improvisation. If you know what I mean.
It certainly seems that they put a lot more trust in their wrestlers to sort of go out on a limb and create things off the back of their, well, because these wrestlers know their characters better than anybody, don't they? Really? So who better to trust than the wrestlers themselves? I mean, we saw that with Jericho and MJF, didn't we? Last week, as we're sat here doing the dinner debonair, whatever it was called. Maybe, I mean, who knows? That could happen in WWE, but it was perfect for those two characters, I thought. So putting more stock in the characters themselves to come up with stuff, I think it works, and that was an example of it.
To me, I do agree with you to an extent. The segment wasn't for me, but I can understand why some people might like it, but it just wasn't for me. To be honest with you, I think Jericho's become a bit boring. Well, not boring. That's the wrong word. But I just don't think the magic in there anymore. At least for me, anyway.
I don't know, because in my opinion, since AEW started, excuse me, he's certainly been one of the highlights. He's certainly with the microphone in hand, he hasn't lost a step, and you see him with the catchphrases he comes up with, but the wrestling sort of speaks for itself. But then you got to realize he's been doing that wrestling for 30 years, so of course he's not going to be as quick as he once was. I think he's been a real highlight of AEW. I mean, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, as you say on the microphone, it's been brilliant. So, what's some of your favourite right now
In AEW,
in all of wrestling? You can name anybody that you think is good.
AEW, I'm looking towards Orange Cassidy and the Lucha Bros, Ray Phoenix in particular, because he came over and wrestled for WCPW back in the day, and I couldn't believe that was the same guy who wrestled for WCPW that wrestles for AEW today, because it was just like what he's doing now is unbelievable. He just mustn't have been trying when he came for WCPW, I guess. Then, I've said Orange Cassidy. I mean, look at the main eventers. Cody's always a fun match to watch because he gets the character aspect and he can work the crowd like few other can. Over on WWE's side, I mean, it's all the regulars. I love watching Volta's matches. I love him just slapping people really hard. There's something quite, I don't know what it is. Just nice to see a man slapping somebody really hard, isn't there? But that's the thing that has changed with wrestling. There's no real bad wrestlers anymore, is there? When you look at the roster, everyone can wrestle. Everyone can put on a match, whereas once upon a time, especially like in my younger years when I was growing up, they used to hire people just for their look, maybe, and then they just couldn't wrestle a lick, could they? So in that respect, it's changed for the better. And wrestling in terms of belt to belt matches up and down the card, I don't think it's ever been better, has it?
And I would say this is probably the best talent in the business that we've had in quite a long time. When you look at all around the world, we have some amazing talent, and there's people that people might not have heard of yet that I think are going to be that I think can be massive stars if they're given the right amount of character time and the right amount of promo ability, the right amount of promo time. My apologies, to really to work themselves into the people's hearts.
Who are they then?
Like this, like this, like I think obviously people know who he is, but I think I I think people like Jay White would be amazing if he came to the US full time, and obviously people like Okada, Okada, and people like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're world class. The two you've mentioned there, aren't they? So, but
And I
then
know,
yeah,
and I know people already know about them, but you'll be surprised when I speak to some of my friends. They don't have a clue they are, and then I have to fill them in like, no, this is why they're good.
what was
So,
that? Sorry.
because when I speak to some of my friends, they don't know who they are. So I know a lot of hardcore fans. They know who they are, but to the local to the local wrestling fan, they don't really know who they are yet.
Yeah, I mean, you should spread the gift, make yourself look really clever. That's what you're doing it when you're a hipster like you are. You know these people before the masses do, and then you make yourself look clever when you go, oh, I used to know them when they were so and so back in the day.
I I used to be like that with Kenny Omega back in 2016. I used to tell everybody that would listen that he's gonna be a future world champion. Obviously, I said it in WWE, because AEW were obviously not around at the time, but obviously now I can see him being AEW world champion by the end of next year.
Yeah, I think he's going to win that tournament against Hangman Page. Just because of how he's sort of turned more heelish and he's brought the cleaner stuff back and his new entrance and whatnot. I think that's the way they're going with that one. And I think he could be the man to sort of beat Moxley down the line.
Be honest with you, it's nothing personal against John Moxley himself, but I'm really not into John Moxley, the AEW character.
Are you not?
I'm just not into him. I don't know why.
I think he's so much. I know they went more down the goofy route with WWE, but this version of John Moxley, like the no nonsense sort of just like, well, he had to kick your head off with some bad words along the way and whatnot. I think it's a lot more effective than what Dean Ambrose used to be.
Maybe it's because I wanted him to wait for a bit longer before winning the belt.
That's
Maybe
fair enough.
maybe it's something like that. But I just can't get into his title reign, to be honest. I think he's the sort of person that needs a crowd there, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, he's certainly one of the biggest baby faces AEW have. So obviously, when you're not hearing people cheering, I guess it's a little bit weird. I guess we're all hearing a bit more now. They've let a few people back in. But yeah, I'd agree with you there, saying that John Moxley needs a crowd to make him even better than he already is, which is fantastic to begin with.
It's the same thing with Drew, really. I think Drew's really been shafted by the
No,
trend there.
I mean, he's what was it like? He's waited 18, 19 years for his shot at the title, and he gets the dream match, doesn't he? Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania in the main event. Then there's nobody there to watch it. It's like you can't believe his luck, can you? And but I think it was a shrewd move by WWE to sort of take the title off him for the time being, and then maybe early sort of spring next year, maybe fans are back in there to make some noise, so maybe he gets that pop he would have got at WrestleMania this year.
And you, and you know what makes it worse for me? Do you know, like in 20 years time, people aren't gonna go like it was a pandemic. All they're gonna see is Drew McIntyre, no audience, and then they're gonna think he was a crap champion in
I,
20
I,
years.
I hope that's not the case. I hope people still remember the pandemic. It's been quite big this year, quite big in the news, hasn't it? Really, I'd hope people will remember in a couple of decades' time.
You would think with some people. I'm not that I could not. I didn't mean they wouldn't remember, but you know what I mean. Like, they're not gonna care. They're not gonna go at it. The weather pandemic. All they're gonna see is Drew McIntyre, no crowd, and then he must be a crowd, and then he must be a crowd champion because nobody cared.
I don't even think who's the worst. Who do you reckon the worst wrestler WWE has?
To, to be honest, somebody like, are we going off based off storyline or actual wrestling ability?
All of the above. Who's the worst of the worst? If you had to name one of them.
Kira Tozawa.
Right, so imagine if I think that's really harsh as well. If Akira Tozawa was world champion, I reckon still they could sell out Raymond James Stadium. Still, if even if Akira Tozawa, who I think's fantastic, just really miscast by the way, he's miscast as that ninja, all that bollocks. It's if they had him as world champion, I reckon they could still fill a 70,000 seater stadium.
Yeah, can you wouldn't be in the main event. You would be, you would be on the undercard. Yeah, and Goldberg and Brock Lesnar would be in the main event.
In 20 years' time, is that?
Well, the Undertaker's still going, so who knows?
Oh, I think Undertaker might have retired. Maybe there's one more match against the Fiend at Survivor Series to have. Maybe I think that's where they're going with the little thing on Bray Wyatt's hat this week. I reckon that's where they were going with that. Yeah, I'm fully convinced that Undertaker's wrestled his last live match. I think any match from here on out is going to be like cinematic, like the Boneyard match was. Just because that's another example. But watching him, the decline over the last few years has been really hard to watch. Because you look 10 years ago and he's having that match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, the second one, and the first one the year before that. It's heartbreaking to see what time does to people.
I don't know what documentary it was, but it was after Extreme Rules 2018. He said to Vince, I'm done," and then Vince just flew him off. I don't know whether you remember seeing that.
Yeah, and then they brought him back for the Saudi Arabia stuff.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, if he doesn't retire soon, I think somebody's gonna have to stop him, either Doctor or his wife or whoever.
No, I think just going off. This is only going off that documentary on the network, the last ride. I mean, I don't know the Undertaker personally, believe it or not. I can't just pick up the phone and ask him. Just merely going off that, I think he's as a wrestler wrestling a proper like live wrestling match in front of a crowd. I think he's done.
But I think he deserve that one more send off in front of the crowd, even if it's not even the match, even if he comes out and delivers a promo just to say thank you to just to say thank you to the fans.
Yeah, yeah. Even they could even do a match where it's they do the cinematic stuff and then somehow the finish happens on the stage or something like that, where he only has to do one move to win, or it would be lose, I guess, if it was his final match, since he's such like it's the tradition in wrestling, isn't it, to lose your last match before you bow out? So maybe the Fiend's the guy who beats him on the stage, and then he gives the old "see you later" and then gets the ovation there. Who knows?
And to be honest, this is what I honestly think. I think if he was not concussed at WrestleMania 30, I do think he would have retired if he wasn't concussed. But obviously, because he was concussed, he had a nasty taste in his mouth, didn't he, of that match? So then he wanted to come back and have one more, and then it turned into one more, and then it turned into one more, and here we are 5 years. Has it been 5 years? How long has it been since?
Six, 2014, the WrestleMania 31. I mean, I was there at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando when Roman Reigns beat him, and he left his jacket and his hat in the ring, and obviously through that documentary, we learned that that was supposed to be the retirement match, but he wasn't happy with that one either. Which I can see why, because it was so sad the way that match finished with Reigns like literally running circles around him, and then Taker's like dazed and confused, and that's how he loses. But yeah, it's hopefully the Boneyard match sort of satisfied him because it was good.
And I think AJ did his best in the build up to make him look good. Because that's what the Undertaker needs at this point in creating the guys that are gonna bump for him an awful lot, and AJ did his best.
Yeah, they shouldn't have him in there with someone like Goldberg ever again, because when you're an old fella, as was said with Jericho, the hands are time to catch up with you, don't they? So yeah, an older lad needs a younger lad to do all the work for them.
Speaking of AJ Styles, was was he at first drew the attention to the flat Earth comment? Because before you, I didn't even know that the comment. So was it you that drew attention to it?
I think I've been one of hundreds, if not thousands, to draw attention to it. To be honest with you, I see it posted on Reddit. Well, when it first came out, I saw it everywhere. It was on Reddit and on news articles and stuff like that. But I think we all got it wrong because there was that talking smack thing, wasn't it? It was just like, I think there's a chance. There's a chance that the Earth might be flat. But yeah, it's that's. Sorry if you're a flat earther, but I think that's a load of bollocks.
It doesn't even make sense, does it?
What's it? It's like meant to be a nice wall around the edge of the world to stop us falling off this flat plane. I've load of bollocks. You can see the curvature of the earth and you go hide up in the plane, can't you?
Well, I'd be more disappointed that AJ is not the most closing person in the world, is he? When it comes to
I mean, just based off that, maybe not. I mean, I wouldn't have said that beforehand because he's obviously a shrewd businessman. Look at his career and whatnot, leaving Impact and going on to New Japan and WWE. But yeah, that's a strange one, that in my opinion.
at the end of the day, AJ is always going to be one of the best of all time for me in the ring. AJ was the first wrestler I actually liked for his wrestling ability. So yeah, I have a good connection with AJ Styles as a fan. So it's just a bit of a shame to see him make comments like that. That's so off the wall and just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, he's part of a movement. Well, I don't know if he's debunked his own comments as we're sat here now. I think he might have. It sort of rings a bell in my head. But yeah, he's just part of a movement who's bought into certain aspects of that. And I don't know what you say about that. People believe in weird things, don't they?
Do you know WWE? Are you surprised that they haven't done more to back Trump? Because I thought they would do, considering that they're his mate.
I don't know if they can get too political with like the sponsors and whatnot that they have now. That they're obviously a publicly traded company, so I'm sure Vince McMahon had his way back in the day. I'm sure he would be donating money to the Trump campaign, like Undertaker and Jericho have, and I'm sure there's more have as well. But yeah, I'm not sure they can do it. Again, I don't know how things work. I'm thick as pig shit, so who knows? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because I've seen Stephanie and Triple H at one of his at, at one of his rallies to, to obviously support Stephanie, but I don't know whether they were there to specifically support Trump or whether they were just there to support Linda.
Linda's involved, isn't she, somehow in the campaign? When it comes to politics, I've got no idea. So I know Linda's involved somehow, yes. I guess they might have been there supporting the mum and Triple H's mother-in-law, I guess. So, yeah, who knows?
Speaking of Linda, where had all this love for Linda come on Cultaholic? Is it just because of Journal?
It's Jen's got this weird. I'd even suggest it goes into fetish territory for Linda McMahon. That's one of the most baffling things about wrestling fandom when I grew up was the pop Linda McMahon would get when she came out. Because I was obviously WrestleMania 17 speaks for itself. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about just every time she would appear with the old WrestleMania theme as her theme, and she would get the loudest pop of the night up there with the loudest pops of the night. I just never understood it.
I, ima- I imagine if she came back nowadays, it would be a chorus of food.
Yeah, probably. You'd have to imagine there'd be a fair few people not happy with their political exploits, I guess. So yeah, there probably would be.
Look at your content creator. How do you deal with trolls and people online? Do you just not listen to them or?
Exactly that. That's they're looking to get a response out of you, and I think if you reply to them, I think you're giving them what they want, and then they win. So I think it was CM Punk the other week tweeted something like, "Don't value the opinion of somebody you wouldn't ask the opinion from," or something like that, something along those lines. And I fully subscribe to that. Like, I listened. Obviously, in YouTube comments, I use them as a gauge to how my videos do, and if I do something new in them and the comment section don't like it, then I'll probably stop doing it because it's a good way to get feedback that way. But yeah, it happened this year during lockdown, which is maybe one of the reasons I decided to take a break because it never normally would happen where someone made a comment about the way I looked and then I bit back saying, "Oh, you're hiding behind an oak," because his profile picture on YouTube was of Okada. I was like, we all can't hide behind that. Show me a picture of you and I'll point out all your flaws or something like that. So maybe that was the moment I was thinking, yeah, that wouldn't have happened normally because I've been doing this for 5 years and never really risen to any of that. Just sort of brush it off. But
You know, that was one of the worst things that you could have done because you probably made him feel all good about himself.
that's the thing is that they're looking to get a response out of you, and then if you give them the response they're looking for, they win, don't they? So yeah,
Obviously, I don't get as much as you do, but I get the occasional comment. And to be honest, if you let people bother you, yeah, you're never gonna achieve nothing in life.
it's that, yeah, you're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. So what's the point? If people don't like, I don't like everyone in entertainment. Like for example, I'm not a fan of James Corden. I like him in Gavin and Stacey, but I don't like his talk show. I think he's obnoxious and a bit of an arsehole, so I don't watch him. It's as simple as that. If I don't like someone, I don't watch them.
Yeah, fair play. Now going back to the speaking out movement, you know WWE, do you think they've done enough? Because I personally don't think they've done nearly enough as they could do, to be honest.
I don't know what they have done and what they haven't done. I'm just a hack on the interweb, so I kind of, when it comes to people like Velveteen Dream and people, I've got no idea what they have done and what they haven't done. What they should do though is, sort of set the record straight and reassure people because that was a big talking point. I'm just using Velveteen Dream as the example. When he came back to TV, it was a bit like, oh, what have they done here? Have they done enough? Have they really looked into this hard? Or have they just sort of seen the monetary value of what this character could be over the next 20 years or so and put that over what may or may not have happened? I think that's what they should do. I think do they owe it to us to put something like out there? I think that's up for debate maybe. But I do think they should make it more clear what they have and haven't done to look into what to that sort of stuff, just to put people's minds at ease a bit, I guess.
Because Triple H did make some sort of comment on it, comment on it, but then somebody instantly come out and said they have not done that. So why would you make comments like that if you know people are just gonna come out and debunk it straight away?
I mean, hopefully that Triple H is saying it from a place of honesty, and maybe that's the thing, isn't it? We just don't know. I think they just need to be a lot more concrete and a lot more, black and white in what they have and haven't done. I think that would just help everybody out in this situation.
To be fair, to be honest, mate, it's a real shame because the actual person's a really talented performer.
I mean, who cares if they're a shithead? And that's I'm saying that if they are, and if they, that's what I mean. It's just
Yeah,
you don't know you don't know what's right and what's not these days, do you? It's a really weird one to talk about, to be honest with you.
yeah, of course. If he has done something, then obviously he's a complete arsehole and he doesn't belong. But I'm just saying, as a performer, he could have been he could have been the next mega star if he would have ju- just been a bit more, just been a bit more professional about it.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, that's it. If you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're an arsehole outside the ring, what's the? It's all gone to waste, hasn't it?
Do you know Randy Orton was coming out today, yeah, with all of his stories over the years? Do you think he would have lasted?
If Randy Orton was what? Sorry.
Coming out today, like, if he hadn't, say, like, if he was how he was back in the early days, like when he was all young, because obviously we've heard stories about him being a little shit back in his early days. Do you know if he would have came out today? Do you think he would have been cancelled, so to speak?
By allegedly, was he the one who did something bad in some a diva at the Times bag? Do you mean that sort of thing?
Yeah, allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, yeah. I've got no idea. That just seems like a really distasteful prank to me as I sit here with my warped perspective on life. So maybe I honestly don't know. I don't know what else Randy Orton did back in the day. Obviously, I've read all the stories about him being a bit difficult backstage and whatnot, and there was that stuff on the Ruthless Aggression era documentary. Sorry. So I don't know. To be honest with you, maybe not. No idea.
It must have been bad when WWE are coming out and acknowledging it on their own documentaries. It must be really, it must have been really bad if they're actually coming out and admitting it.
Well, everyone loves a good redemption story, don't they? So I guess that's kind of a redemption story. Redemption story. Sorry, it's been a long day.
So a couple more questions and I'll let you go, mate.
No problem. What are they?
So, of the of the of the I've never had that reaction before.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's up to the people, but it's up to the people to decide. Uh, but do you know if somebody came out today with the same sort of career as The Rock? Like if there was like, hang on, let me start that again. Do you know people like The Rock? Yeah. Do you think do you think we never had somebody like that again? Or not really? Or was that just lightning in the bottle?
It's a hard one to answer because obviously The Rock is a lot of natural gifted talent in one body. Maybe too much for one body. That's why he's the size he is. Um, so are there people to come along to wrestling who have that amount of talent? Maybe, you never know. But then again, it comes down to, especially with The Rock, because it seemed like while a lot of his promos were obviously scripted, a lot of it was down to Dwayne Johnson himself putting his own spin on what was scripted for him. So will somebody who comes along with that amount of talent be allowed to be like as larger than life as The Rock was? I think that remains to be seen. It's a hard one to answer that because sometimes, I don't know, maybe the closest thing today is MJF in AEW. I think in terms of like just being clearly like a very talented individual who maybe isn't like your normal man. The stuff he can do in terms of talking and singing, as we found out last week. But I think it maybe it does depend on how the scripted nature of promos goes in the future. I don't know.
But as we've seen with people like John Cena, he can have all the success in the business as you want, but that doesn't mean you're going to transfer over into Hollywood successfully, like obviously The Rock has done.
I mean, it took the Rock it took the Rock for a while. Sorry, for the Rock to get where he is today. I mean, I remember when he first left, and I had my mum got me the Tooth Fairy, I think, on DVD. So we've all got to start somewhere in Hollywood. I guess it applies to Hollywood as well. So, mate, Cena hasn't been gone that long. So who knows? Because the Rock left, and obviously, he had the Scorpion King first, didn't he? Then he came back and left again. So who knows what's in the future for Cena? Maybe he will get to those heights.
But the Rock was a lot younger, wasn't he, when he left? I think he was in his 30s and John Cena's in his either in his early 40s or his mid 40s. But the point is, he's been he's a lot older. And
Yeah.
Holly- and Hollywood is a young man's game. And I know you have people like Dave Bautista, but he was the one. I think he was the one off, to be honest.
You reckon?
When it comes to his age and the amount of work he got, I think he was the one off. When it comes to the, I don't know, man. I just think breaking into Hollywood after having a really successful pro wrestling career is not not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, Cena's a very talented man, as we've all seen. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny his talent with when it comes to speaking and acting out things. So maybe he will get there one day. You never know.
I I personally, when I was growing up, John Cena was one of my guys. He was the first wrestler I ever really liked. And you know when people say, "Oh, I miss Hogan," or "Miss Rock," or "Miss Austin," I never used to really understand. But nowadays, I understand. I understand because when you've grown up watching somebody, you develop an an attachment to them. If
Yeah,
you know if you know what I mean.
that's the same for everybody. Their era, like even if you ask people who grew up in the new generation era, I bet they say their era is better than somebody else's era. So yeah, I get where you're coming from there.
So who was your first wrestler that you really attracted to? And I mean like really attracted to?
Um, what do you mean in terms of the way they look or the way they wrestle? What do you mean here in terms of attraction?
No, I mean like do you know when you see them on the screen you instantly want to watch the match, you instantly want to listen to their promo as a young Ross Tweddell.
Kane. Kane was the one for me because I was absolutely terrified of him. This is the original Kane when he first rocked up, and excuse me, his debut had been teased for 6 months, and then Hell in a Cell came around. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, and he ripped the cage door off, and then that Kane who initially debuted all the way through until the WrestleMania match with Undertaker. That was just the mask and the size of the guy, and the ripping off of the cage door and setting people on fire with lightning bolts that came out of his hands. I mean, how couldn't you be captivated by that? But then obviously as well, my mom got me a VHS of Sting and Goldberg's like a superstar series, I think it was called back in the day. So seeing Goldberg flatten people
So
when you're 8 years old, that was a big thing for me to go and watch Goldberg. Well, want to watch Goldberg flattening people.
I'm not like Goldberg, even when even when I've gone back and watched some of his WCW stuff, I've never found him that interesting. To me, it just feels like a creative. Do you know in the WWE games when you have like the creative wrestler? That's what Goldberg reminds me of. Cause he
before
got,
you've before you've done anything to them.
because he got no he got no mic ability. His matches are very basic in a good way. And he got no real interesting thing about it. Rather than just he beats up a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, watching him do a spear on people and lifting up when the Big Show was called the Giant, when he lifted
Yeah,
him up and did a jackhammer and stuff. I mean, that's what got me. So
really. Because when I go back and watch that, yeah, obviously I'm watching in terms of hindsight, but I imagine if you're watching it live, it was quite impressive.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't watching it live because I didn't have Sky until 2004, something like that. So I used to catch my wrestling on Channel 5. There used to be a show, I think it was on just it's either before or after 4 by on a Friday night called Worldwide, and it was just an hour that sort of summed up what happened on Nitro and what happened on Thunder. So that was my only exposure to wrestling. Just seeing Goldberg matches on there as part of the streak. That's what reeled me into him.
So the penultimate question. I, how would you how would you like the wrestling business to improve for the better?
That's a massive question. Um, the big thing for me is characters. I want to see more defined characters. Do you mean just in terms of what we see on screens or as a whole?
You can you can do either, whatever one you want to do, mate.
I mean, after the Twitch thing, I'm inclined to agree with Paige in our stance on unionism. So maybe I don't know. Maybe the in terms of the business side of things, I'm enjoying the fact that they're not killing each other, well, killing their own bodies. 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week, traveling around the world. I think that's for the betterment of the wrestlers as human beings, and potentially could be for the betterment of like what we see each week on TV because they're wrestling less and getting hurt less, in theory. So maybe that for a starter. Maybe that stays after the pandemic's over. Who knows? Maybe house shows are a thing of the past. Employer, and make them employees for goodness sake. They are employees if you're going to control what they do outside of the TV shows. Make them employees. There's another thing to improve it with. But then on screen, more defined characters. Because I grew up with the Attitude Era into the ruthless aggression era, and of course we had defined characters for days back then. But now it's a weird time we find ourselves in where everyone's sort of like maybe what Hardcore Holly was, just sort of a man in trunks who does wrestling well.
Do you, do you think that's because the way the world is and the way social media is, wrestlers can't take some of the criticism, so nobody wants to be a heel, and because nobody wants to be a heel, they all just say I'm a good wrestler because I can't think of a really strong up and coming heel apart from MJF. I can't I can't think of a new rest, wrestler that that, that sorry that actually enjoys being hated, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I don't know if Baron Corbin still counts as a new wrestler, but I think he's certainly one of them as well. I think he's a fantastic heel, even though I think the King stuff is a load of crap on him. But no, I think it's just down to the writing, isn't it? It's down to the compelling storylines and the storylines making us actually hate someone. Like when I was growing up, Triple H was the big heel, and he would always do things to make you hate him. So I think it's because obviously back in the day we read stories about people like Christian and the Un-Americans and not wanting to do things to really make them be hated and stuff like that, and sort of turning things down. So maybe it's a twofold thing, both the storylines and maybe the wrestlers. But then again, the storylines I think are the big thing there.
And also I think they're just trying to a lot of these stories that they're trying to tell are very A to B, aren't they? And then so on and so forth. So there's not as much complexity in the storylines anymore. I don't think it's very A to B and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and longer term stuff as well. That's something that's missing as well because it was now finding a good payoff after a sort of 6 month, 9 month storyline, which in WWE is still missing today. But then I don't know if that's deliberate on their part because of those us damn millennials who we need allegedly we need stuff at the second's notice. I don't know how it works.
To be honest, I think when it comes to me and you, because obviously we've been watching for a long time. I think we've just become them fans that just think it was better back in our day.
But no, it certainly was better in some aspects back in our day, back in the attitude and ruthless aggression eras and stuff like that. But in terms of wrestling, it's never been better. In terms of what happens between the two bells, it's certainly never been better than it is today, in my opinion. So it's certain aspects, because people often skip over the fact that certain aspects of the Attitude Era were rotten. You know, some of the stuff they try to do, if they happened today, it would be frowned upon because it's crap. But back, because it was maybe because it was the late 90s, early 90s, maybe because it was a different time back then, and maybe more things were allowed to fly and shock value and all that malarkey. Maybe because that was more prevalent in society and media. Maybe they got away with more back then than they probably do get away with today.
Yeah, and to be honest, do you know fans like Izzy, like the younger fans? I enjoy hearing their opinion on the current product. So let's be honest, they're the ones that are gonna drive the wrestling fans forward. Like people like us, yeah, obviously we are still important, but like TNA and that, they're gonna drive the business forward into the future, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. We're two old men who are definitely past their prime. No, I do know what you mean. It's yeah, I mean their perspective on things is going to be completely different to ours, just because they are 10+ years younger, aren't they? So
In the weird way, we're sort of like the Jim Cornette.
no, we're not. I mean, I hope I'm not.
we, we, we will, my last question, why, why, what do you dream bit of content that you would like to do for the channel in the future?
A dream content, is that dream video?
Yeah.
Um, Vince McMahon on Straight to Hell, something like that. Something big like that. Stone Cold on Straight to Hell, something like that. Someone, because through Kenny, especially, I got to meet Goldberg, and I couldn't believe it. It's like he was speaking to me for a fair bit of time, like longer than he maybe, he didn't have to speak to me as long as he did. So I don't know, something like that would blow me away, meeting,
With,
Stone Cold or Vince McMahon or something like that.
with that before, with that before, with that before he started doing all these combats and all these matches where you slayed him off.
Well, no, it would have been in 2017, I think. So maybe it was after his Universal title reign, maybe. But when because I remember the WTF I did for that Saudi Arabia show when him and Undertaker had their bit accident and whatnot, and hopefully I conveyed during that the stick I was giving them very much came from a place of sadness, because it was sad to see how that just like time taking its toll on these people you grew up with, and it happens to every single person that you just sort of like. I mean, like physically, I started deteriorating when I hit 18. Never mind, early 50s like they are. But yeah, it was. Hopefully, that came over. It was really from a place of sadness that, like, people you grew up idolizing. It happens to everybody. But no, it didn't come up, to answer your question. I didn't bring it up. No.
Okay, I know some wrestlers. Watch what you do, because I remember you told a story one time when you were backstage at WCPW, whatever. I believe it was fully, I believe it was fully bad. Said to one of the other guys, he did the guy that buries everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
That,
that could only be aimed at me or Matthew, who does Botchamania, but again, Matthew wasn't involved at WCPW, so who knows? It was either me or Matthew, so potentially. I mean, yeah, I got told by one of the imports from America on one of those shows that my videos got passed around the locker room, so because people went, look at this fat Geordie lad taking the piss out of you.
and the only way I understand if you don't want to reveal the person, but if did any wrestler actually come up to you and say to your face, have we got a problem or anything like that?
No, it was just the only in terms of something I've said on video. I get the impression that nobody of any sort of power watches what I do, so I get away with a fair bit because they haven't seen it. But I once got confronted by a referee for WCPW who was unhappy at the treatment I gave him after they clearly made a mistake. So that's as bad as it's got. Just a referee who refereed for WCPW.
So do you know nowadays, yeah, do you think wrestlers are too sensitive on social media? Cause a
No,
lot,
I can fully see where they could, if this. I can't relate to it because what I do isn't specialized. But if I was watching somebody who wasn't, who had never, because I've never taken a bump in a wrestling ring, if I saw somebody who hadn't gone through what I've gone through to get where I am today, having a go, because I try, when I'm doing WTF moments, I always try to make sure I don't mention the botches per se, because mistakes happen in wrestling. Yes, I might say, "Oh, it happened," but I feel like I've got to mention it. But I try to focus more on storyline stuff and stuff that doesn't make sense more than botches because it's human nature. Sorry, humans make mistakes, don't they? Um, sorry, it's been a long day. I'm running out of steam here.
the, the only reason I brought that up because you know people like Adam here. Obviously, he doesn't do maliciously, but he does like to have a bit of wind up on Twitter with certain wrestlers here, and I think sometimes he can take it a bit too far.
You got an example?
Like there was the incident recently where Charlotte posted something, yeah, and he said, I can, I think it was like for a collaboration tutorial, yeah, and basically, yeah, basically he said, I'm interested, I'm in, I'm in, I'm interested, and basically, I just thought, no, no wonder. Hang on, can I start what we're saying?
No, I know what you're talking about. I saw the tweet to Charlotte Flair where she was looking for the makeup collaboration. He was like, "Why don't I'll give it a go? Why not?" Sort of thing.
To be honest, I thought that was a bit harmless, but I wasn't surprised. He got blocked, yeah. Cause do, do you know, do you know, do you know your man on social media, and he tweets one of these female, female, female wrestlers in particular. You have to be, you have to be very careful on what you say.
Yeah,
Obviously,
definitely.
so I think in situations like that, even though he didn't mean it like that, he probably should have just left it alone. Obviously, he's gonna do what he wants, and that's fine.
If you don't shoot your shot, you're never going to get anywhere, are you? And he wanted to get painted up by Charlotte Flair, so more power to him.
To be honest with you, that's why I said to think wrestlers take it too seriously. Because I know if somebody tweets me that, I would just I would just ignore it and move on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think even she would have realised he was having a bit of fun there, hopefully.
But when you get tweeted a load of hate every single day, yeah, sometimes what you think is hate might not be hate, but because you get hate so often, the smallest the, the smallest thing can really bother you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, yeah.
So yeah, so thank you for coming on, Ross.
Not a problem, pal. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for asking me to come on.
No worries, mate. So do you want to promote your social medias or the channel or whatever?
Yeah, I appear on Cultaholic Wrestling, which covers AEW, WWE, bit of New Japan here and there where they don't take our videos down. NXT as well. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ross on Wrestling.
So It didn't say if you got any more episodes of Tweddell coming up.
When's this interview being published?
Well, it'll be it'll be posted in the next couple. It might be in the next couple of hours. It might be in the next couple of days. So who knows?
So we're sat here. What's the date today? We're sat here on the 30th of October, and I can tell you now on Sunday I've got a straight to hell with Chris Van Vliet. So that's all I can say.
That would be nice. Do, do you know one? Do you know one time? Do you know one time? Yeah, I would love to do a series like that.
Do it. Why not? You do it better than me.
I might obviously because you do the wrestling. I might do it around football.
Well, aye. It seems like a good idea. I don't think anyone else out there does it. So that's the thing, isn't it? Just find the idea that isn't out there covered already. So I don't think anyone does that as far as I'm aware. So go for it. Why not?
So okay, mate. I really appreciate that. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you I hope you enjoyed our little chat. I know some of you might find it interesting because I know I've got a large majority of you probably don't care about wrestling, but there you go. So,
Hopefully they will care about wrestling now. Hopefully I broke down the barrier and welcomed them in. I doubt it, like, but there you go.
so I will speak to you guys later. And from from me and Ross, have, have, a, have a good day.
Have a nice day.